Hello friends, today let me talk to you something regarding visibility modifiers or access modifiers or access specifiers in Kotlin. Access modifiers or visibility modifiers are something that makes encapsulation possible, which is a OOPS concept. So in Kotlin there are private, protected, internal and public modifiers, and in Java there is a package private which is the default modifier for Java. In Kotlin the default is public. So there are blocks, that is import block in this example, and there's a class called open class which is a main class or main activity in Android Studio, as I am using Android Studio, and there is a function called main function within this main class. So this is the block, and there is a second class called subclass which is inherited from the main class, and it has a function called subclass function. And there is a third class called the other class which doesn't inherit anything from the main class, and it has a function called subclass function. So I am using logcat as an output display tool that's simpler to print on the screen. So let's run this and see what happens. Here you can see the filters that I have applied for the logcat output is info and the output is not regular expression, and the emulator that I am using is Nexus. So you got the output here. So now let's see what happens in the program. The program has a member called getMe, which is to be got by its functions or the subclass function or the other class function. So this is the function within the same class which needs to get the getMe. So when it gets it, you will get this particular output. Now let's see what happens in the subclass, which is the inherited class of the main class. So in this, when you getMe is got by this particular class, you'll get this thing as the output. So this is the other class, and when you get the getMe, you'll get this thing as the output. We'll go to the main class and change the access modifier of getMe to public. The message will be something like redundant modifier, as public is the default, and the subsequent functions within the same class, the subclass and the other class will recognize getMe. Now we'll change this thing to private, and now only the function within the main class can recognize getMe, and other functions there is a red underline which shows that getMe is not recognized. Now we'll change this private to protected and see what happens. Here the function within the same class recognizes it, and the subclass recognizes it, but other class doesn't recognize, and there is a red line. And now we'll change the protected to internal. So in this case, all the classes, the subclass and the other class and the function within the main class recognize, and there is no red line. So internal is something similar to public, which can be recognized within the package. So now we'll just try to run this program using different modifiers. Now first thing is private. So we'll just run this. So we'll get an error. So this error comes from the subclass function which is accessing it. So getMe is not recognized within the subclass when the modifier is private. So we'll go just change this private to protected and see what happens. We'll run it. So now what happens? There is another message error that comes from the other class when it tries to get me. The access modifier protected will be changed now to internal, and once this is done and run, internal is recognized by all the classes, subclasses, and the other class functions. So now you can see the output. So that all the members can access this particular get me.